Today we answer your best Lorcana questions. Let's get into it. So as you all know, we absolutely love interacting with you in the comments section, whether it's just talking about the future state of Lorcana or answering certain collection questions, whatever it might be. We love interacting with you, and we have gotten so many amazing questions from you all. Some of them we go back and forth on for so long that we've decided that we're just going to put them aside. I believe we actually answered them in the comment section, but we also said, okay, we're going to put these aside and we're going to create an actual video around some of these questions because they're just so good. So we're going to do that today. If you ever want to ask a question in the future that maybe we'll put on a future video, just throw it in the comment section. As you know, we look at all comments, we respond to all comments. I'll also put the email to our YouTube channel up here. If you do want to ask us a question via email, you can drop us a line there as well. But before we do that, we have decided that we're gonna do a small giveaway today. So we're gonna be giving away one Inklands Trove box to one channel member. Just make sure that you like this video, be subscribed to the channel, and we'll let you know in the next video what you have to be able to do, what you have to comment in the next video to be able to be eligible to win the Trove box. But as always, thank you all so much for your support. We're eternally grateful for you all, and let's get into these questions. All right, so the first question is, do you think they will reprint the first chapter, and if so, when? So this question is, in my opinion, the number one question that's being asked right now in the Lorcana TCG, because as we know, reprints with the first set of anything are so important to the consistent longevity of any TCG. Anytime I get asked a question like this that's so broad, the first thing I always ask myself is, what is the real question? So if you want to know, will they reprint the first chapter? I think you got to ask yourself, are you someone who believes that Lorcana will continue to grow and expand long term? So if you're asking me that question, of course my answer is going to be yes. So answering the question directly before we kind of elaborate more on the question, yes, I believe that they'll reprint the first chapter. When that might happen, I'm not sure. I think that this could be something that they don't do for maybe all the way up to another 6 months to 2 years from now, as we sort of get through this first wave with Ursula's return and whatever's going to come after that. This is clearly sort of a phase type approach that they're doing with Lorcana. But at the same time, in terms of consistency with the game, longevity, popularity with the game, at least when I do my like looking up and research on the game and seeing what's going on from a meta perspective, I'm extremely encouraged with what I'm seeing. I know that the Lorcana Challenger event that just got announced a couple of weeks ago, I'm pretty sure that it overwhelmingly sold out in the US, which is amazing to see, because that's the wider reach for Lorcana, as they are European based. So I'm super encouraged to see that. And then from a collectability standpoint, I mean, you look at the biggest chase card with the first chapter, which doesn't always indicate collectability with a TCG, but it doesn't hurt. You look at Enchanted Elsa, how it's consistently going up in price. I feel like every single time we do a new video, we're always talking about Elsa and how she's skyrocketing in price. Now, this to me will eventually, there will be a reset for this. Like, she's not just going to consistently go up forever. There'll be peaks and valleys, but there is, at least from what I'm seeing right now, very stable growth with Elsa going forward. So I believe right now, last I checked on TCG Player, verified listings, I think she's like around $1,200, something like that. You look on eBay where you have actual pictures of the variant, you're seeing prices that go for like up to $1,500 with last sold. I'm pretty sure I just saw PSA 10 the other day go for $2,500. I saw Beckett 9.5s being listed for $3,000. I mean, there's a lot of demand right now for Elsa, and that supply is, at least in my opinion, isn't going to be able to keep up with that demand. And that goes for other enchanted cards as well. And we're actually going to talk about one or two other enchanted cards in another question that we have coming up here. But I do see long-term longevity in the form of reprints for Lorcana. The interesting thing is going to see, the interesting thing that we're going to have to see is when they do reprint, will there be a distinct designation that we're going to get on that reprint? And that's going to come in the form of like a code on the back, something like that. right now you'll see that they do have codes for the 2 print runs that they have done for Lorcana. I think that there's 2. Someone let me know in the comments section if there might have been 3. I know that I have 2 different print runs, but at the same time I also know that I got my first chapter, the first wave of my first chapter in like the September, October-ish time, so a little bit after the game came out. So it's possible that I missed the first, maybe there was like a first small print run, something like that. But it will be interesting to see if they do reprint what that code will look like. And then from there, it's also going to be interesting to see how we go about deciphering which cards come from which print down the road, because as we know, there's no first edition stamp. I know that right now what you can do, it's a little sketchy in terms of, kind of estimating what, where this print comes from, but theoretically, if you do look up, say, a graded variant, we'll just take Elsa again. If you look up a graded variant of an enchanted rare card, or really any card that gets graded from the first chapter, you are also able to look up on PSA when was that card graded, like based on the cert number, like when was that card, sent in, certified, and graded. That can also give you a little bit of context as to if the card was from the first print run or the second print run. But again, it's not an exact science, and I don't know that we're ever going to get an exact science on that, because again, no first edition stamp, no designation like that. However, I also think that that's extremely encouraging for the game itself, because to me it makes it seem a little bit easier for them to send more prints out there into the wild, just because it's going to give everybody the same chance to help get them into the game, feel like they're becoming a part of something. And then finally, the last point that I'll make on this is it'll be interesting to see if they do reprint, are they going to wrap those boxes in plastic? Because that right there would also be, again, not an exact science, but that would also be a little bit of a designation. I get one of them has tape on it and the other has plastic on it, so it's obvious. It's very obvious which one is the reprint. But the original print, not sure if you're going to be able to have an exact science on that, because you could just tape the box yourself. But if you are someone who did get that first print run from your LGS, you yourself would be able to tell those distinct differences between the first print run and the second print run. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that coming out in the future, and then also if they're going to do just booster box reprints, or if they're going to add those individual packs in with special edition boxes. We've talked about that before. I've always speculated that once we get through Ursula's return, we could start seeing different products, or a certain product like a special edition product that has the first chapter, Rise of the Floodborn, Into the Inklands, and Ursula's Return all within that packaging, with maybe like a promo card or something like that in there to sort of signify the first phase of the story within Lorcana, as we've kind of built up to Ursula being this, the big bad in this first wave of Lorcana. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that, but that's kind of my thoughts on first chapter reprints. All right, next question says, which card do you believe is the better card to pick up for collectability? Enchanted Belle or Enchanted Cinderella? I absolutely love this question. This might be my favorite question that I've been asked out of any video, any comment. When I first saw this question, the first thing I thought to myself was, this person who commented in the comment section, they did their homework, because in my opinion, they split this as close as they possibly can. So I'll preface by saying that my answer is not going to be aligned with everybody's answer who's listening right now or who might comment in the comment section. I think this one's very 50-50. However, this is also why this question made it onto this video, because I think it is so unbelievably close. So let's talk about each side of things. So with Enchanted Belle, essentially what you're getting is you're getting the second best, or at least right now, the second rarest or second most valuable enchanted rare from the first set, from the first chapter. On the other side of things, with Cinderella, you are getting the #1 chase card from the second set. So basically it's the second best in the first, or the first best in the second. So like very much splitting hairs. And I actually think the best way that I can answer this question is going back to the first question that we talked about with reprints with the first chapter. If you are someone who believes that going forward long term, Lorcana is going to reprint, then I actually believe that that more so favors Cinderella. So I'm going to answer Cinderella. That's going to be my answer to the question. I believe that that's going to be the more collectible card going forward. Here's the thing. We talk a lot about like pin analogy, like the product, the IP, the nostalgia. It's really hard to do that in this case with these two because there's so much overlap going on with these two cards that, you know, like again, in terms of like nostalgia, they're both Disney princesses. They're both from a similar era. Very difficult to kind of, you're going to be splitting hairs when you go through that analogy. So this is one of those rare cases where you can't really use the pin analogy. You kind of have to just go a little bit by feel and what you think from a gameplay perspective or from a TCG perspective they're going to do going forward. Going forward, as I said before, I do believe that they will reprint the first chapter. So if that's the case, the more first chapter that they reprint, the more bells you're going to see out there in existence. Will they reprint Rise of the Floodborn? I'm not sure. If you asked me, I would probably say yes, because we've also said like in the form of special edition sets, things like that. I believe that they will reprint Rise of the Floodborn. You'll see more Rise of the Floodborn. But there's no question that if they do reprint, the first place that they're going to start is the first chapter. So if we're going based off of that logic, then next time I hear that they do a reprint, that's going to affect the price of Bell, right? It's just because there's going to be more copies of Bell in existence. There's going to be more ways to get your hands on Bell. It's going to become theoretically less rare, easier to find in the wild. So Bell is going to go down in price, because right now the two have a very similar price going on. At least the last I checked on TCG Player and eBay. But a reprint would hurt Bell on that side of things. Could they reprint both? Yes. But this is why I think this is such an amazing question, because if they do reprint, how is that reprint going to go? Are they going to just reprint the first chapter? Are they going to do first chapter and Rise of the Floodborn? So basically me answering this question is just me going off of the only factual knowledge that I can go off of, which is if they do reprint, they're going to start with the first chapter, because almost every TCG reprints the first set ever, right? It's such an important set. It's such an important moment in any successful TCG going forward, and I do believe that they will at some point. So if I had to own one, it would be Cinderella, but it is so unbelievably close. So thank you so much for asking this question. I love the two that you've put in there, and please let me know in the comment section. Let me know, like, if you have any other, like, would you do this card or this card? Would you do this or that? I love those because I love bouncing those ideas back and forth. All right, so the last question we're gonna do today is, how would you allocate a $100 per month budget to Lorcana? Again, love this question. So I can take this from two perspectives, and I will. I can give as much thought to the gameplay meta side as I possibly can, and then of course I can also give at least quite a bit of insight on what I would do as a collector. So let's cover what I would do, like what I know much less about first. Like we'll talk about the game playing side first. And I actually think that my status or my knowledge as a game player, I don't think it really affects what I would do in this scenario. I think that whether I was brand new to the game, didn't know anything about the game, or whether I was one of the best Lorcana players out there, I think I would probably allocate the money the same way. So I am always someone who, instead of grabbing something just so I can, toss it right back and spend it, I always like to save up and build up so that it affords me more options when I do go to spend that money. So if I were to, let's just take, for example, a new set comes out every quarter. So that gives me theoretically 3 months in between sets to be able to build up $100. So that'd be $100, $200, $300. So when that new set comes out, for example, let's say Ursula's Return. When that set comes out, I would look at it like I have $300 to spend on Ursula's Return from a gameplay perspective. From there, it's really just where you want to kind of shut that fountain off, or kind of close the door. I would go somewhere in between the $200 to $250 range of saying, okay, I'm going to spend $200, $250 on sealed product for Ursula's Return, whether that's booster boxes or blisters or whatever that might be, to be able to get packs in my hand that I can open and grab singles for my deck building. But then, as we know, as weeks go by, we start to see the meta shift a little bit. We start to see incredible content get produced out there where they're showing and introducing new decks and how different tech works together. So when I see that, then I would say to myself, I want to be able to have just a little bit of money left over so I can go grab singles that I'm going to need to be able to complete my deck. So again, whether that's the remaining $50 to $100, in this case, we'll say $200 is going to be spent on sealed product. $100 is going to be spent on being able to grab those singles to be able to kind of fill those necessary holes that I need to with my deck. So I would do something like that. I would want to have a collection, the largest assortment of money that I can have to be able to throw at sealed product so I can get product in my hand. But then from there, I also want to make sure that I can cover my gaps. And you're really not going to know what those are until you see the meta take shape a little bit over the preceding few weeks. So I would probably do it like that from a collective or from a gameplay perspective. From a collectability perspective, same thing. But this time I would just save it all. So $100, $200, $300. We get to Ursula's return. I now have $300 in my hand. That's wonderful. I would not spend that right away. And I feel like I've said this to a handful of you in the comments section, where you might ask me, should I buy this right now? Do you think this will go up or down in price? The answer that I almost universally give to everyone is when a card comes out, when a set comes out, when you're looking to get anything in your hand from a collectability standpoint, the last time you should be buying anything is the moment that the set comes out. That is when the set is at its absolute hype. That is when the card that you're looking to purchase is at its absolute hype, and you're going to be buying something at its absolute peak, or at least in the short term at its absolute peak. 5-10 years from now, sure, maybe the card starts to ascend in price, and that's a belief that I've always gone off of. But at the same time, if you look at, for example, we'll take a conversation that I had with one of my channel members who wanted to purchase Scrooge McDuck. Scrooge McDuck was going for around, I want to say like around $180 when it first came out, for Into the Inklands on TCG Player. But as weeks go on and the market starts to flood with more Scrooge McDucks, there's going to be more ways to get your hands on it. The market's going to be more saturated, and it's inevitably going to have to go down in price because it's just supply and demand. There's going to be more demand, so there's going to be more supply, so the demand is going to just be a lot less for them because there's going to be more supply to meet that demand. So you're going to have different individuals who are selling Scrooge undercutting others in the market, and we're just going to keep going lower and lower and lower and lower, and eventually it did, right? It went down to like $120, something like that. So if you're going to purchase an individual card, I would always say wait, let the market flood with more copies of that card, and then go get that card at that point. But regardless, I would do it the same exact way as a gameplay perspective. I would save up all my money, and that way I have the most money possible, which will give me the most options possible. If you want to go buy the best enchanted rare for $300, you can. Or if you want to go buy 3 enchanted rares for $100, you can. If you want to go buy sealed product, you can. You have the option to do so many different things, and then whatever best for you in that moment, you can do. So that's kind of how I would do it for both a gameplay and a collectability perspective. All right, y'all, so that's going to do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed today's content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, interact with us in the comment section. You know how much we love when you all do that. I had an awesome time choosing which questions we're going to use for today's content. Keep asking us those questions in the comment section. Maybe we'll do another video like this in the future. We're eternally grateful for you all, and we'll see you on the other side. Peace out.